So after laying into Toby Mac a little bit, although he probably didn't even write the song, let's just be honest, Don't X Blink suggested that I listen to Phinehas, Hell Below. Now, I am familiar with this band. I actually played a show with this band back at Club Impact in Tacoma with my old band, not Numbers, but the one before it, which is called Hexus. And we were opening for End the Century and Phinehas. The guitarist and somebody else from End the Century, they started a band called Hardest, and they were signed to Roadrunner for a while, and then I don't know the full story, I haven't been in contact with those dudes in years, but they went back to doing independent stuff, and their new EP is pretty good. You should check it out. This was back in like 2009, maybe 2010, and Phinehas was really good. I haven't listened to Phinehas in a long time. It's been maybe at least over a year or two since I've actually listened to them. And we'll listen to Hell Below, and I'll just give you my feedback. And this is more of like just a compensation for Don't X Blink. I think he was expecting me to like the Toby Mac song, and I just absolutely didn't. So he suggested one that he thinks I will like. So here it is. All right, another music video. Yeah, I've heard this one. Nice and tight. I was linked down by association, standing on your name, avoiding its eyes. I watch the souls expire under the way. That bass end, I have a problem with it. One day they saw concrete fangs into the head that feeds. Around the blade, trying to stifle their voices. I bone their limbs, they broke my ears. I remember that tune. That's a good hook. Yeah. Is this with their new drummer? They had a drummer previous to this guy. Really long hair and a mustache. It's a different guy, looks like. I haven't kept up with these guys. Very catchy right here. I like that bent note, that descending note. Yeah, it's cool. That pushed yell sing, I love that. I do the same thing. It's a nice little vocal flair. Watch a man praying God bleed. I'm for a night, watch a man praying God bleed. I'm for a night, watch a man praying God bleed. There we go. Here he comes. He's gonna get you. I fear Nice. The strongest part about this song was the vocals. I like the structure. It's fairly straightforward. You have the chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, you know, that kind of standard structure, but you had a nice, sweet guitar solo in there. The guitar tones were really, really good and juicy, nice and crispy, nice and hot. My issue is the bass. I'm hoping that as this React series develops, I'm not constantly complaining about bass. It's just a preference, you know. I just want to hear that bass. I want to hear it. I want it to not only fill the sonic space. I want it to be very audible that that's the bass right there, you know. Whereas like when I listen to this, I hear a tone of bass, like a tone that's like just a low, like the bass end too isn't very full. It's not that full. I wish it was wider. Like the whole mix would hit so much harder. The tones sound right. The drum mix sounds great, but the bass end, it's like hollowed out almost. And I don't like that. The music video is about the Kim dynasty and how it's ruled over North Korea since 1948. But if anyone knows the actual truth about North Korea, you would know that North Korea has been a CIA asset for years. You could do your research about that, but it's been controlled by the CIA for decades. And that's why, like, in recent history, this whole, like, Trump being the first one to cross into North Korea, like, this is a huge deal. And I'm pretty sure because Trump is dismantling the CIA. He's dismantling their power, their cultural power, their political power, their economic power. Like, the CIA is not Central Intelligence Agency is a nice fancy term, you know, that sounds very, very official and sophisticated, but it's a lot more sinister than that. And so you can look into it, you know. You can look in, just cross-reference North Korea, CIA, and see what you find. I promise it will surprise you. And so if you research it, it's a rabbit hole for sure. North Korea has been a boogeyman that the CIA has used as a political tool for world influence. And you might think I'm crazy for saying it, but I'm just going off of what I've read. I'm going off of what I've researched and found. So it's very interesting if you look into it. There's a lot more to North Korea and the CIA. You should definitely look into that. So anyways, I don't know how closely there's the music video aspect of it, which is about North Korea and stuff, and then there's the lyrical aspect of it, which I don't know if it has to do with North Korea. So I'm going to go ahead and read through, and let's see. So, I sow the salt, but the bitter weeds still grow. I fear a heaven above for the hell below. I'm not sure if I understand that. I fear a heaven above. Why would he fear a heaven above for just grammatically for a hell below? I'm not sure if I follow that. I'll just keep reading. I wept when guilt by association started in irony, avoiding its eyes bowing 3 times. I watched as hopes expire under the weight of standards I create and betray. One day they sunk hungry fangs into the hand that feeds, a hand that bleeds in trying to stifle their voices. I bowed their limbs, they bowed my knees. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I'm going to keep reading. Maybe I'll be able to start connecting things. Struck to silence by the gavel, make them bleed for playing God. Lost in the waves of a sea of fire, 1 million portraits to fan the flame, burned in effigy, a fitting end to a cult of personality. It could be about Kim. Called to the judgment seat, eye for an eye, watch a man playing God bleed. So it almost sounds like the narrative, like he's singing from the narrative of the government, saying this is what happens to dissenters, maybe. Struck to silence by the gavel, because that's the judge, the court. Struck to silence meaning you're sentenced to silence. You no longer get your own voice. There's no liberty for you. Make them bleed for playing God, like punish them for thinking they can decide things for themselves. I sowed the salt, but the bitter weeds still grow. I wonder if he's like thinking, like maybe that line is like, I did the work, but these dissenters keep on growing. But I fear a heaven above more than, he changes the line. Instead of a heaven above for the hell below, he says, I fear a heaven above more than the hell below. The only thing I could think is that, like, maybe he's singing from the perspective of the ruler, Kim or something, and he knows he's bad, he knows he's working or serving evil or something, and he fears justice towards him more than hell below because he knows that heaven, he doesn't belong in heaven or something. I'm guessing. I don't know. That most of those lyrics I feel like are kind of. It's not necessarily word vomit. And what I mean by word vomit is that sometimes when you're writing lyrics, you just need to get words out. Like, you just need to just say something, and get some words on some paper. And then you can, like, start to structure those words around the song and stuff. And it doesn't matter if they make sense or not, at least not at first. You just need some sort of, like, verbal structure that dances with the song. And once you have that structure built, then you can start swapping out words and start making sense of the lyrics. And I'm wondering if this was written in just kind of a quick way, possibly. This is all conjecture. I'm making no claim. Or there's a lot of symbols and meaning that I'm not picking up on, that I need additional context. I just wish these things were made more obvious when it comes to lyricism, but it's hard for me to really critique the lyrics when I don't know if it's just I can't wrap my head around them. A lot of it just sounds like it's supposed to sound broody, but the lyricist might not even know what he really means. But it's possible that it just could be going over my head. If any of you like Phinehas and want to explain the lyrics to me more so I have additional context of what he's saying, or just additional understanding, maybe I'm just completely missing the mark. I have no idea. I made some guesses as to what he means, but it's not extremely clear, and I kind of wish it was. So the tightness, it's cool, but I think it's a little bit dated. This is 2017, and that I guess as a songwriter, I'm over the like, I did it myself. I wrote quite a few songs that did the same thing. So I'm speaking from experience. I'm not saying shame on anyone that does this. But I think just as a songwriter, when I hear it now, I'm just so over it. But the strongest part of this whole song was the chorus. Surprisingly, the hook was that dissenting note where he goes, for playing God or God. I like that dissenting ah. And he has a really nice gritty tone. It just matches the fieriness of the song, which I really like. I like the melody of that chorus. I feel like whoever writes the choruses, could be the vocalist, they know how to write a good hook, which I appreciate. I just have a deep level of appreciation for a good hook. Just it keeps you excited. It's like, oh, here's that cool chorus again, and you hear that same melody, and I like hearing like variations of it on each chorus and stuff, but still sticking to the main melody. There's a common way to structure melodies where you use one note or a line. Basically, it could be the ba ba ba. Then you write a melody that goes down somewhere, and then you go back to the ba 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 to establish a pattern. That really helps for a good hook. You have to establish a pattern so that listeners can expect something. It's like building a really cool shape. You have to think about melodies as shapes in a way, and in order to write a good hook, the shape of the melody has to have some sort of pattern to it so that listeners can pick up on it, and then they can go, ooh, I like that part. And so once you have a note that you hit, or a little line or something, you hit that note here, and then for the second half of the bar you sing a couple of notes here, and then you go back and repeat that melody line again, and that establishes a pattern. And then instead of doing the same line from before in the previous bar, you do a variation. And so, for example, that's exactly what happens in this chorus, where he's like, struck to silence by the gavel, the ba 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 ba. That's establishing the line that you're going to pick up on, because then he goes, magnum blade, he comes back to that note for the second line. And then instead of going for playing God, which would be the same melody as the before. He goes, for playing God. That's what makes it a hook. You have a pattern here, you insert a change up, but it's still, I don't know. I'm trying to explain this as concisely as possible, but I'm getting lost in the weeds. Yeah, that was Phinehas, Hell Below. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do next, but keep shooting suggestions at me and I'll keep on listening. Peace out.